Hi, I'm here to talk to you today about how to safely use the compound miter saw. But before we use the saw, we have to talk about which safety equipment you need to be wearing. First of all is the safety glasses or safety mask. Second of all, for ear protection, you can wear earplugs or earmuffs. If there's a lot of dust, you can also wear a dust mask. But it's also important to never wear gloves when operating the compound miter saw. Hair should always be tied back, and your long sleeves should be rolled up past your elbows. There are 4 types of cuts that can be made with a compound miter saw. The first is a straight cut. This is a perfectly square cut with every setting on the saw set to 0. The second is the miter cut. This is when the saw is adjusted between 0 and 45 degrees. The third is a bevel cut. This is when the blade is adjusted between 0 and 45 degrees. The third is a compound miter cut. This is when the blade and saw are adjusted between 0 and 45 degrees. So now that I've gone over the proper safety equipment required for using the miter saw, I'm now going to talk about the different parts of the saw. First, we have the table. This is where the workpiece sits. And we have the fence, which you move your workpiece up against to hold it firmly in place. We also have the table clamp, which can be placed on either side. This is the guard. You never will manually move the guard. The guard moves down as you move the saw blade down. On the top, you have a switch to turn on the laser and the switch to turn on the saw. This is the miter scale. This is the miter clamp. If you want to change the angle of the cut, unclamp and adjust the angle. On the back of the saw is the bevel clamp. The bevel scale so that you can adjust the angle of a bevel cut. Lastly is the slide clamp. This is used to make longer cuts. I'm now going to show you how to properly use the compound miter saw. Before you begin, make sure that the saw is unplugged. After the saw has been unplugged, adjust the saw to where you want it to sit. I'm going to be doing a square cut, so all of the settings are at 0. I'm going to leave the slide unclamped because this is a large piece of material. Next, inspect the blade. Make sure that there are no dents in the blade. Once the saw is properly adjusted, it is now time to inspect your working material. Make sure that there are no knots or foreign objects before clamping it down. Place the material on the table and push it up firmly against the fence. Then, fasten it down tightly with the clamp. Once the material is firmly attached, it is now time to plug in the saw. You can turn on the guide light to make sure that your material is going to be cutting in the proper place. Lower the blade to make sure that your blade cut is going to be made where you want it to be. Before cutting, make sure that the blade is up to full speed. Then push the blade through the material, and once the blade has come to a complete stop, then raise up the blade. Unplug the saw. Then you can unclamp your workpiece and verify to make sure that you've made the proper cut. After you're finished cutting, make sure to clean up. To clean up, you can use the brush and dustpan or the shock bag. After cleanup, before you stow the saw, make sure to inspect the blade for marks or blemishes.